Hi, it's Arty Vicky here, and for today's project I would like to show you how to make some shape cards. These are using basic cutout shapes to make interesting greeting cards, but very simple and easy to do. Some of them we will use the dyed paper that I've already showed you how to do, or we can use book covering Duracell type papers to make our cards, or you can use the shapes for doing some Zentangles. Here I have Zentangled the back of the card. I've done a video too on how to do Zentangles in case this interests you. Now the shapes themselves, I like to make it easy, so I have put a file up on my blog, a PDF file it's called. If you go to my blog and look for my free stuff, you will see a file of shapes, and you can download these and cut them out, draw around them, and use them for arts and crafts projects like this one. So let's get started. Let's do some shape cards. Yay!
If you plan to use your shapes more than once, it really is best to glue them to cardboard and then cut them out. This also makes them much easier to draw around. So here's my shape, and I happen to have some holographic cardboard. So I've put the shape on the back and I'm going to draw around it. But you don't need to watch all that. So let's cut it out. And you don't need to watch all of that either. So here's my shape. The next stage is to choose the card that you're going to put it on. I have some A5 card here, which is half letter size if you're in America. And I decided that black was absolutely the best colour for this one. Now the thing about black though is that when you come to write in the card, you will need some gel markers or something similar to write your words. Now I'm using a piece of newspaper here because I'm going to use a glue stick, and I always recommend that you use newspaper and change it regularly when you're using a glue stick. Make sure you get plenty of glue stick all over the back of your shape. And now we glue it down to the card. Just like that. And doesn't it look beautiful? Now this card, I Zentangled my card first. And I'm going to glue a unicorn on, but in a slightly different way. Instead of using glue stick, I am using foam tape. This is a double-sided tape with foam on it, and it will raise the unicorn up off the background. You need to cut little pieces of the foam and stick them on the edges and a little bit in the middle, just enough to support the shape so as it doesn't sag in the middle or lift up at the edges. Now you have to get the backing paper off the back and you can stick it down onto your card. The foam tape just gives it that little bit of extra dimension. And of course the Zentangle makes it look even more beautiful. Now here I'm using some of the hand dyed paper that I've already shown you how to do on a video. I am going to draw around the cat shape on the back, cut it out, once again choose the background that best suits and glue it on. Here I'm using another piece of the hand-dyed paper that I've shown you how to make, but in this case I'm just going to fold the paper into 4 pieces and it will make the card itself. Here we are. This will be the front of the card, and I've made a seahorse shape and I'm using the craft foam to stick it on. The seahorse was decorated with sponge painting. Now here is where we use the holographic book covering. Now you need to cut a piece of the book covering larger than the piece of card that you're going to use. Then peel the backing paper off only part of the book covering. This is the key. Don't peel it all off or it'll all come out of control. So fold it back a bit there. Now you can lay it down and check that it's going to go down straight and cover the whole card. Then stick the bit at the top. Now I like to use a cloth to rub it down and smooth it down, as I pull the backing paper off. Now, I did have a wee bit of trouble with this particular holographic book covering. It turned out that it was a fairly old roll and the glue was not actually sticking properly, so I ended up with a lot of bubbles that I wouldn't have otherwise had, and sometimes the bubbles kept popping back in even after I'd rubbed them out. So that's what happens when you use old book covering. Now here I am peeling it back up off the table, and I'm going to cut that excess off around the edges. Never try to make your Duracell exactly the right size and then lay it down on the card. It simply will not fit. Cut it bigger and cut the extra off. Now I fold this in half, and here's the figure that I'm going to put on the front of the card. Just cut a wee bit of my book covering off here. Draw around the dancer shape, but you don't need to watch me do all that. Here it is. And now I'm going to cut her out. Peel the backing paper off. This can be a little bit difficult. Do it carefully. And lay it down on the front of the card. There we are. Stick it down. Rub it with the cloth again. And here it is. A holographic greeting card. Here I've used craft foam for the apple shape, and I've glued it on with the double-sided foam tape to lift it up off the background. Here I've used wrapping paper. The wrapping paper was quite thin, so I glued it to some light cardboard before I cut it out. And here I've used Christmas wrapping paper, which once again I glued it to the red cardboard. You can't see it yet, but it's on the back. And I'm using the craft foam, but I've layered it. I've got 2 layers of craft foam because I want it quite high in the middle. And I'm only going to put the glue just around the edges. What I'm aiming for here is a rounded effect on the bell, raising it up off the paper. As you can see, it does look quite cool. Now this one, I have used a felt pen to draw around the swan shape because I'm drawing onto felt. And this particular piece of felt was actually cut off an electric blanket that stopped working. Now felt can be glued with your stick glue pen, and that is what I'm doing. Here I have my glue stick. Rub lots of glue on though if you're gluing something like felt. Make sure you do it very generously. And that will stick to the card, and so will the fur fabric. I used the same glue for the Christmas tree and for this polar fleece that I've glued on here. You can also use white craft glue if you like. And here's a marbled card. Have fun making your shape cards. And if you like what you see, please subscribe to Arty Vicky here on YouTube, and go and have a look at my blog on WordPress or my page on Facebook.